Have you been canvassing these days? Because it's hot. It's the summertime.
To be honest, no. I am
Mm,
not canvassing. It's actually not one of my favorite activities. It's one of those things I force
really,
myself to do.
really. But you force yourself because does it work any better than, say, cold calling or any other form of outreach?
Geez, I don't know if it works any better. I think it gives you a better phone call when you are cold calling, just because it kind of softens it up, right? Like you're like, hey, I came to visit you, you weren't there. Like now there's a reason why you're calling, right?
Got
So
it.
I think that's where it works. You get some information too when you go and visit people. I think it depends if you're talking about canvassing or strategic drops. Obviously, canvassing is like, hey, I'm just going to go somewhere and figure it out if this might be an opportunity for us to have a conversation. If you have clients already or prospects and you're just going to drop off, and then while you're at their office, you're like, hey, I'm going to go and do the cloverleaf method where I'm just going to walk around and see if there's anyone else that potentially might want
Sure.
to have a conversation. I think that works too, just because you're like, hey, I was in the area visiting a client. I just thought I'd drop by.
That's surprising because I thought you had a regular cadence for canvassing because I've seen you out there with your partner in crime, just kind of, talking
I
about
mean,
time and location.
more recently, yeah, I think I don't know if I should say struggle, but like it's just not my strong suit, right? Like I don't necessarily love doing that. Some people do. They
Mhm.
live and breathe by canvassing, and that's their bread and butter. For me, it's
Right.
not. But it is, I think, important as another kind of part of outreach, right? You got to do it all.
I actually have it on my calendar right now 3 times a week, but I switched it to mornings because of how hot it is. In fact, today at 9, I'm supposed to meet with a couple of guys on my team. We're going to go out. And so we figure out a location we're going to hit. In fact, we're trying to buy a large map. We usually canvass Orange County. We might venture out into Inland Empire at some point, but that's a far drive for us. And
Especially in the summer, man, in Inland Empire.
well, I mean, that's why
Love
we're
it.
going at 9, but it's already hot, and it's not, you know, but this morning I've been out since quarter to 7 and it was pretty warm, so we can't do it in the afternoon for sure. But I still want to keep it going. I know when it gets cooler, I'll go every morning, and then that's my normal rhythm. If you go in the morning and then you make your follow-up calls in the afternoon, because I'm not really just a hard cold caller. I know, is that what your go-to is for prospecting then?
Yeah, no, I mean, I try to find ways to make this not a cold call, right? So I think that's where you do your due diligence and kind of have some level of intelligence to find something that connects you to the person that you're trying to reach
Sure.
out to, right? So it's not just, hey, I'm this random person calling you out of the blue and then just like click, right? Because you create that sales resistance immediately and you're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, you got to get in somehow, right? Because I don't know. I know probably 99 out of 100 calls I make go to voicemail these days, especially in the summer when people are on vacation. But when you do actually go canvas, what's your strategy? How do you pick your time and place that you're going
I
to canvas?
mean, look, the last thing I want to do is walk around and get hot and walk in somewhere and you're all sweaty. And I don't think that's going to pay any dividends. You might get lucky, but for me, one of the things I like to do, also so I'm not wasting time, is I do something called digital canvassing that I kind of made up on my own, right? So I go to
Okay,
Google Maps and I find an area. I'm like, all right, I kind of want to go to maybe Orange or whatever. And I go to Google Maps and I just start clicking on businesses that I see. And if they're in Salesforce already, then maybe I don't go there, right? Because,
sure.
hey, what happens? You go canvassing and then 5 out of the 10 places you went already in Salesforce and you're like, oh, I just wasted all this time. So I kind of do that preparation ahead of time just so I know that I'm not wasting my time. And, you learn a little bit about the company so you're just not walking, completely unaware of what they
Yeah.
do.
So other than looking up to see if they're already in Salesforce, do you have a plan before you go in? Like, who are you going to try to talk to? What are you going to say?
I mean, that's difficult, right? Because the gatekeeper kind of sets a lot of the tone. So I think, having just a natural rapport with the gatekeeper, that's going to tell you whether you're going to have any kind of success. Most
Do you
of the
bribe
time,
them
I'm
with
not trying to
gifts?
meet with anybody, right? I'm just saying, hey, like, can I get the number or to your CFO or CEO, obviously depending on the size of the company.
No. Well,
And
do you use gift drops as a method
yeah,
to get info? Yeah. So
like
what?
tchotchkes, I don't like that stuff. I just think
Say
for me
cookies,
personally,
coffee.
it's lame. I don't like it. On the flip side, when I was, receiving salespeople and they would bring me like, some Post-its and a candy, I was like, this is stupid, right? But that's me personally. So I like dropping off information So we have a lot of cool marketing materials that I drop.
Marketing collateral.
Not
Yeah.
specifically like the books or anything like that, but we have these smaller magazines, I think, that has a lot of cool information.
Well, how do you pick something that you know they're going to look at or pass on to who you need it to be passed on? Like you could take a personal headshot in, that might actually raise some eyebrows.
I mean, you kind of gamble a little bit, right? Like, you don't want to research your way out of the job. Sometimes you just got to go out there and just talk to people and figure it out. And I think that works too. But in regards to dropping something off, if it's just canvassing, I do have like that small little magazine. We have so many of them that I think it's pretty cool. And again, for me, it doesn't even matter what I'm dropping off. It's just the fact that I'm dropping something off, and so I can call back and be like, "Hey, I dropped
Sure.
something off. Did you
But
get it?"
but you
And
also want them to remember you when you drop something off, right? To help
correct.
ensure that they're going to get your information to the decision maker that you asked them to. So like something of value, I don't know. So when you actually show up, pull the doors, and you see a no soliciting sign, do you go in or do you walk away? What's your philosophy on that? And what does no soliciting mean to you?
That's a hard one. Sometimes I just walk in and pretend like I didn't see it, or I don't necessarily feel like I'm soliciting because I'm not really trying to sell them anything,
Sure, yeah.
right? I'm just trying to find out who the person is that might handle this and have a conversation, right? Because let's be honest, like our process is one that we can't sell anybody anything until we have a couple conversations. So now there's other times where I'm like, man, they have a really gigantic no soliciting sign. Maybe the company just doesn't seem like it's worth the hassle. And
Sure.
so I just move on to the next one.
All right, so you walk to an office and you have a receptionist or someone at the front that gives you a dirty look and asks why you're here. What are you gonna say?
I think at that point, obviously they're trained to do that, right? They're the gatekeepers for a reason. They want to make sure that, hey, look, let's be honest, we're not the only ones doing this, right? They got the coffee guy, they got the this guy and this guy and this guy, and
The
so
the Cintas medicine cabinet guy.
for sure, right?
That's the
So it's just kind of one of those quick, look, I'm not here to waste your time, you know, who's the person that handles this? Okay, well, what do you do? We're a strategic HR partner, just trying to see if it makes sense for us to have a conversation and then just try to leave a couple tokens of information.
Well, because I know how hard it is. Anytime we get a visitor, I just walk them to the office, welcome them in. Sometimes I'll offer them water, just see what they're here for. And most of the time, I can't help them, right? Because I'm not a real decision maker in our company, but
Yeah.
I'll try to do something to help them because I know how tough this job is and give them props for going out there, and canvassing, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you can leave with some information, like, hey, are you guys even headquartered here? Oh, actually, no, this is just a satellite office. We're headquartered in Indiana. Okay, well, thank you. That was worth the conversation. Or, hey, just out of curiosity, like, how many employees do you guys have? Oh, we're about 30. Well, in my system, maybe I thought you guys were 100. So just trying to get some sort of information that helps you somewhere down the line is kind of what I try to do when I'm out
yeah.
canvassing or
So
doing
how
jobs.
many times have you had a door slammed on you or you walked in and they just asked you to leave? Has that ever happened?
Not too often, to be honest. I try not to be a sales guy because
Sure.
I think if you do that, then you're definitely gonna get the door slammed on you.
Well, then
I just try
what?
to be courteous and human and that's it. I think leave it up to the person if they want to reciprocate that same sentiment.
So your objective there is just to leave your name and some info and leave. So what's the purpose of canvassing in the first place then?
Well, I mean, one is just to find new accounts, right? Two is to have a reason to call back, right? Because, we don't want to have on the spot DCs, right? That's not an appropriate time to
Sure.
do that. So that's why I'm not necessarily asking for the decision maker right off the bat to see the person. I'm just asking, who is it? And can I have their card and can you drop this off? Because I want to set up an
Yeah.
appointment.
I guess I thought you were a big time canvasser. I think I'm probably canvass more than you now that I think about it.
Oh,
And
no,
I'm
I don't.
probably more aggressively canvass than you too because I have had doors closed on me and I've been told to leave. They'll tell us we're not interested and sometimes I'll persist and just say, hey, look, in case you need to talk to us at some point, let me leave my card. I might come back around in a few months and I'll still get a dirty look. But in fact, actually I have while I was talking, this one lady, I don't know if she did this on purpose or her door was stuck, but the door was closing in slow motion like this as I was talking. And I kept talking and talking. And I actually have to follow up with her, but
Hey, look, man, I'm sure there's a ton of stories that we can have a whole conversation about just the joys of canvassing. And, there was one with one of my past colleagues that he walked in and I left him out. let him go inside. I didn't even want to go inside. And he's like, "Hey, I'm so and so, and here's my colleague." And he turned around, and I wasn't even there because I was like, "I'm not walking into this one." I just felt like it was bad juju, and so there's definitely some canvassing horror stories out there. But it's just part of the game, and it's just resiliency to
Yeah.
keep going.
No, I had someone on my team who's no longer here, and she used to go canvassing with another guy who's no. They go into these industrial, areas, and I think places like Long Beach and maybe even City of Industry, and they'd have big signs that say "Beware of dog." And I think this is true, but he told me she would hop fences and routinely get kicked out, and she had no fear. But you have to have that kind of attitude sometimes. Obviously, you don't want to, do anything illegal or disrespectful, but I thought she was pretty good at getting DCs, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to admire their persistence sometimes. I don't have that skill, and so I try to, find other ways to do what
Mhm.
I need to do to get meetings. But hey, if that's your strong suit, then go for it. And there's people that are really good at it, and
Yeah.
they focus a lot of time doing that. But I think kind of going back to another previous question you asked, is like, how do I prepare? Another thing is just finding the right cities to do it because there's cities like Irvine that it's harder to canvas. Most of the companies are in some sort of professional building that has, you got to pay to park, either security, so it's a lot harder. So if you identify cities that have business centers that are, you can just park and walk up, that's a lot
Yeah.
easier than
I mean, it's pretty hard to just to get even into our office. You got to go through the parking gate and pay for parking and make your way up here, right? So we don't get a lot of visitors here actually because of that, probably.
yeah, I mean, it's a little intimidating and you're just like, all right, well, there's a lot more obstacles to try to
So you like to go to industrial buildings and retail properties even, or what?
I like light manufacturing. I like blue collar stuff. I think that's kind of been
There's not too much of that here in Irvine, so you're probably
no.
driving out to where? Anaheim, Santa
I'm in
Ana?
North County a lot. I think that's one of the places I like to go. I
Mm.
actually have a lot of clients in that area, so it gives me kind of a story of why I'm even there. So yeah, I mean but again, that's just the way I do it. I'm not saying it's right or it's, even a good way to do it, but that's just how I've been doing it.
Well, you and I will have to go out there sometime because I want to see how you do it.
I will say this though, going in pairs, I think is a lot better than going by yourself.
I agree. You would think this is a terrible idea, but today I'm going out with two other people, so three people, but we don't all walk in together. We rotate, and then we give each other feedback after we walk in and have a conversation. And we've decided we're just going to go canvas and talk about all of our canvassing afterward because
Yeah.
we get into arguments on like what we did right or wrong. Salespeople, right? Everyone has big egos, so But
Well, I like that. I mean, it's good to get feedback because sometimes you don't know what you're doing wrong or if you're doing something right or
oh yeah, I welcome feedback, right? So
yeah.
not everyone
No.
does, and so you gotta understand it has to be solicited, right? So
I also think it makes it more fun, to go out there and do a tedious task that you don't necessarily like. And, when you're out there with someone, it's more fun. Like, I think you're more at least for me, I'm more comfortable, going in pairs, like have a little more courage just to walk through the door and have a
yeah.
conversation. So yeah, I think it's all good.
No, I think I remember we actually did go out together once. We went up to was it Anaheim or Fullerton, one of those areas.
Yeah.
But it was a hot day then. I mean, it's July now, so it's really hot. So it couldn't have been that hot, but I just remember it being really hot and we cut an hour. Yeah.
It was really hot. And so, yeah, that kind of just ruins it, You're hot, you're stinky, and you're sweaty, you're thirsty, and it's just not a great like first impression a lot of times. So you have to kind of keep that in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a numbers game, and yes, you should do it, but also perception is pretty big, so
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, let's figure out next week a time to get together and do it again sometime. Even though it's hot. I
yeah,
just
man, for sure.
all right.
Absolutely. Maybe we go to Newport Beach or something where it's not as hot.
Yeah, you got to continue prospecting through the summer, right?
Yeah, especially right now, it's this is the time because the next couple of months, this is when people actually start looking at this and start talking about it. So you gotta definitely put pedal to the metal right now.
All right. Well, I'll catch up with you later. Bye.
All right, brother. We'll see you, man.